What up? Oh, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Happy Wednesday. I need to move all of my bookmarks really quick before I get started because they're all in the way of the words. How is everyone? Sound off. Get those hands in the chat, son. What up? Tell me how your day's going while I prepare myself by doing something I probably should have done earlier today, but oh well. Can't win them all. We're starting Return of the King today. I'm amped. I am so excited. Yeah, this chapter in particular is one of my absolute faves. It's really long. I need to make a video dedicated solely to it. Because oh boy, it's so good. So much happens in it. We really blast into the kind of end game of the book with this one. So once I'm done moving my little markers, we'll get right into it. Good Lord, that's a lot of bookmarks. Isaac, you know I'm in here. I am both in here and out here taking notes all the time when I'm reading. What up, Sting? Here with a mug of hot chocolate brewing. Original animated Grinch is on in the background. Ooh, and you're playing Pokemon? What Pokemon game are you playing? Marksaldehyde, Fellowship broken. Master Samwise decided. And now you're telling me the king's going to return? Ooh, ooh, maybe. I mean, it is in the name of the thing, but who knows? Spoiler alert, here comes the king. Oh, I'm sorry that you have real bad heartburn, Sting. You're doing all of the proper self-care, I think. And yeah, are you playing that Pokemon Legends game? I've been told it's good, but I haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, so I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be that or Stardew that takes over my entire holiday break. But yeah, thank y'all for being here. We're a minute past start time, so I'm going to get going. Ooh, fresh book, fam. Look at all this. We got a lot to get into. We're doing Return of the King, Book 5, Chapter 1, Minas Tirith. You're doing a Nuzlocke run of Ruby? Sick. Who did you pick for your starter? Just keep me posted on your progress while I read, because I'm getting into this. All right, Chapter 1, Minas Tirith. Pippin looked out from the shelter of Gandalf's cloak. He wondered if he was awake or still sleeping, still in the swift-moving dream in which he'd been wrapped for so long since the great ride began. The dark world was rushing by, and the wind sang loudly in his ears. He could see nothing but the wheeling stars, and away to his right vast shadows against the sky where the mountains of the south marched past. Sleepily, he tried to reckon the times and stages of their journey, but his memory was drowsy and uncertain. I feel that. There had been the first ride at terrible speed without a halt, and then in the dawn he'd seen a pale gleam of gold, and they'd come to the silent town and the great empty house on the hill. And hardly had they reached its shelter when the winged shadow had passed over once again, and men wilted with fear. But Gandalf had spoken soft words to him, and he'd slept in a corner, tired but uneasy, dimly aware of comings and goings, and of men talking, and Gandalf giving orders. And then again riding in the night. This was the third night since he'd looked in the stone. And with that hideous memory he woke fully and shivered, and the noise of the wind became filled with menacing voices. Thank you, Sting. Mudkip, of course. Very fair. A quick last time on. We just spent an entire book with Frodo, Sam, and Gollum/Smeagol. So last time we were with Pippin and Gandalf. Pippin looked into the Palantir, and Gandalf was like, "Welp, your reward is now coming with me to the White City of Gondor, Minas Tirith," and they have been riding, as that passage suggests, for 3 days now. As the crow flies. A light kindled in the sky, a blaze of yellow fire behind dark barriers. Pippin cowered back, afraid for a moment, wondering into what dreadful country Gandalf was bearing him. He rubbed his eyes, and then he saw that it was the moon, rising above the eastern shadows, now almost at the full. So the night was not yet old, and for hours the dark journey would go on. He stirred and spoke. "Where are we, Gandalf?" he asked. "In the realm of Gondor," the wizard answered. "The land of Anor-Yen is still passing by." There was a silence for a while. Then, "What is that?" cried Pippin suddenly, clutching at Gandalf's cloak. "Look! Fire! Red fire! Are there dragons in this land? Look! There's another!" For answer, Gandalf cried aloud to his horse. "On, Shadowfax! We must hasten! Time is short. See! The beacons of Gondor are alight, calling for aid. War is kindled. See, there is the fire on Amandine, and the flame on Eilenach, and there they go speeding west. Nardal, Eralas, Minrimon, Calenad, and the Halifrian." Yeah, I got all the eyes, okay. "On the borders of Rohan." But Shadowfax paused in his stride, slowing to a walk, and then he lifted up his head and neighed, and out of the darkness the answering neigh of other horses came, and presently the thudding of hoofs was heard, and 3 riders swept up and passed like flying ghosts in the moon, and vanished into the west. Then Shadowfax gathered himself together and sprang away, and the night flowed over him like a roaring wind. Pippin became drowsy again, and paid little attention to Gandalf telling him of the customs of Gondor, and how the lord of the city had beacons built on the tops of outlying hills along both borders of the Great Range, and maintained posts at these points where fresh horses were always in readiness to bear his errand riders to Rohan in the north, or to Belfalas in the south. "It is long since the beacons of the north were lit," he said, "and in the ancient days of Gondor they were not needed, for they had the 7 stones." Pippin stirred uneasily. "Sleep again, and do not be afraid," said Gandalf, "for you are not going like Frodo to Mordor, but to Minas Tirith, and there you will be as safe as you can be anywhere in these days. If Gondor falls, or the ring is taken, then the Shire will be no refuge." "You do not comfort me," said Pippin, but nonetheless sleep crept over him. I'm like desperate to make Shadowfax past tense as well. Shadowfaxed. I don't know why. The last thing that he remembered before he fell into deep dream was a glimpse of high white peaks, glimmering like floating isles above the clouds as they caught the light in the westering moon. He wondered where Frodo was, and if he was already in Mordor, or if he was dead. And he did not know that Frodo from far away looked on that same moon as it set beyond Gondor ere the coming of the day. The 2 hobbits, Frodo and Pippin, looking at the moon, and it's the same moon that they're looking at, obviously, is so sweet. And I really like that little bit, that one little line, because it doesn't really need to be in there, right? Like Tolkien could have just taken that out. And I say that because when Tolkien was writing this passage and also trying to match it up with the timing of Frodo and Sam's journey to know like what phase of the moon they were in, he realized he was off by like 2 or 3 days or something and had to like retcon and like change the timeline around a bit to make this little passage about Frodo and Pippin looking up at the same moon work. I just love it. He like went into this like moon frenzy. It's really sweet. I am planning to make a short video about it because he talks about it in his letters as well. He got like obsessed with the phases of the moon as it relates to his story. And I just think that's adorable. Like, oof, that's so Tolkien, dude. Pippin woke to the sound of voices. Another day of hiding and a night of journey had fleeted by. It was twilight. The cold dawn was at hand again, and chill gray mists were about them. Shadowfax stood steaming with sweat, but he held his neck proudly and showed no sign of weariness. Many tall men heavily cloaked stood beside him, and behind them in the mist loomed a wall of stone. Partly ruinous, it seemed, but already before the night was past, the sound of hurried labor could be heard, beat of hammers, clink of trowels, and the creak of wheels. Torches and flares glowed dully here and there in the fog. Gandalf was speaking to the men that barred his way, and as he listened, Pippin became aware that he himself was being discussed. "Yea, truly, we know you, Mithrandir," said the leader of the men, "and you know the passwords of the 7 gates and are free to go forward, but we do not know your companion. What is he? A dwarf out of the mountains in the north? We wish for no strangers in the land at this time, unless they be mighty men of arms in whose faith and help we can trust." "I will vouch for him before the seat of Denethor," said Gandalf, "and as for valor, that cannot be computed by stature. He has passed through more battles and perils than you have, Ingold, though you be twice his height. And he comes now from the storming of Isengard, of which we bear tidings, and great weariness is on him, or I would wake him. His name is Peregrine, a very valiant man. Man, said Ingold dubiously, and the others laughed. Man, cried Pippin, now thoroughly roused. Man, indeed not. I am a hobbit, and no more valiant than I am a man, save perhaps now and again by necessity. Do not let Gandalf deceive you. Many a doer of great deeds might say no more, said Ingold. But what is a hobbit? A halfling, answered Gandalf. Nay, not the one that was spoken of, he added, seeing the wonder in the men's faces. Not he, yet one of his kindred. Yes, and one who journeyed with him, said Pippin. And Boromir of your city was with us, and he saved me in the snows of the north, and at the last he was slain defending me from many foes. Peace, said Gandalf. The news of that grief should have been told first to the father. It has been guessed already, said Ingold, for there have been strange portents here of late, but pass on now quickly, for the Lord of Minas Tirith will be eager to see any that bear the latest tidings of his son, be he man or hobbit, said Pippin. Little service can I offer to your lord, but what I can do, I would do, remembering Boromir the Brave. Fare you well, said Ingold, and the men made way for Shadowfax, and he passed through a narrow gate in the wall. May you bring good counsel to Denethor in his need, and to us all, Mithrandir, Ingold cried. But you come with tidings of grief and danger, as is your wont, they say. Because I come seldom but when my help is needed, answered Gandalf. And as for counsel, to you I would say that you are over late in repairing the wall of the Pelennor. Courage will now be your best defense against the storm that is at hand, that and such hope as I bring, for not all the tidings that I bring are evil. But leave your trowels and sharpen your swords. The work will be finished ere evening, said Ingold. This is the last portion of the wall to be put in defense, the least open to attack, for it looks towards our friends of Rohan. Do you know aught of them? Will they answer the summons, think you? Yes, they will come, but they've fought many battles at your back. This road and no road looks towards safety any longer. Be vigilant. But for Gandalf Stormcrow, you would have seen a host of foes coming out of Anorien and no riders of Rohan. And you may yet. Fare you well, and sleep not. I love that little bit. Like, Ingold being like, hang on a second. Gandalf, we know you. Of course we do. You're on the list. Who the fuck is this? And Gandalf calls Pippin a man, obviously to kind of like elevate and enlarge him and expedite the process here. But Pippin's like, no, thank you. I will not be misclassified. I'm a hobbit, thank you very much, and not particularly valiant at all. And Ingold like does something that I think a lot of the people of Gondor tend to do when looking at a hobbit, is saying, many a doer of great deeds might say no more, where he's like, sure, all right, you're not valiant. Whatever, bud. Like Pippin's like, no, I promise, I'm really not. And then yeah, Ingold says, Gandalf, you come with tidings of grief and danger, as is your wont, they say. And Gandalf says, I come seldom, but when my help is needed. Like, this is another theme I want to pay attention to in this chapter, is Gandalf only appears at need. Like, he rarely will show up just to, like, hang out, unless it's, like, you know, to go to the library and learn about the big bad ring. Yeah, Mark's aldehyde, very good. No draft dodging here. Pippin's like, I don't know if I meet the height requirements for a soldier of Gondor. But yeah, I like that Gandalf kind of throws Ingold's bit back in his face when he's like, but for me, you would have seen a host of foes coming out of Anorien and not riders of Rohan. Like, Gandalf's like, I've already done you many a favor, so watch your fucking mouth. I love it. Gandalf passed now into the wide land beyond the Ramas Akor. So the men of Gondor called the outwall that they'd built with great labor? Real quick, sorry, as an American who lives in the UK, every time I see O-U-R, nabor, calor, favor, labor, honor, that's how I want to say it. I'm trying to get better at code switching, but sometimes, especially when I'm reading, it just comes out like that. Rames Ekor, so the men of Gondor called the outwall that they had built with great labor, and after Ithilien fell under the shadow of their enemy. For 10 leagues or more it ran from the mountain's feet and so back again, enclosing in its fence the fields of the Pelennor, fair and fertile townlands on the long slopes and terraces falling to the deep levels of Anduin. At its furthest point from the great gate of the city, northeastward, the wall was 4 leagues distant, and there from a frowning bank it overlooked the long flats beside the river, and men had made it high and strong, for at that point, upon a walled causeway, the road came in from the fords and bridges of Osgiliath and passed through a guarded gate between embattled towers. At its nearest point, the wall was little more than 1 league from the city, and that was southeastward. There Anduin, going in a wide knee about the hills of Emin Arnen in South Ithilien, bent sharply west, and the outwall rose upon its very brink, and beneath it lay the quays and landings of the Harland for craft that came upstream from the southern fiefs. Fiefs? 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 I don't know. Sting, where did you move from in America? I lived all over the US when I lived there, but I moved from Brooklyn in New York when I moved over to Scotland permanently in 2020. Yo, my fucking boy, what up? Okay, this next passage I'm going to preface with, let him fucking cook. All right? Oh my God. The townlands were rich, with wide tilth and many orchards, and homesteads there were with oast and garner, fold and byre, and many rills rippling through the green from the highlands down to Anduin. Yet the herdsmen and husbandmen that dwelt there were not many, and the most part of the people of Gondor lived in the 7 circles of the city, or in the high vales of the mountain borders, in Lasarnak, or farther south in fair Lebanon, with its 5 swift streams. Real quick, though, the townlands were rich with wide tilth and many orchards, and many homesteads there were with oast and garner, fold and byre, and many rills rippling through the green from the highlands down to Anduin. Bars. Fucking bars. An artist. Ugh. Painting with language like an artist paints with fucking acrylics or watercolors, dude. Oh my God. Oh, so good. The herdsmen and husbandmen that dwelt there were not many, and the most part of the people of Gondor lived in the 7 circles of the city, or in the high vales of the mountain borders, in Lasarnak, or farther south in fair Lebanon with its 5 swift streams. There dwelt a hardy folk between the mountains and the sea. They were reckoned men of Gondor, yet their blood was mingled, and they were short and swarthy folk among them, whose sires came more from the forgotten men who housed in the shadow of the hills in the dark years ere the coming of the kings. Excuse me. But beyond, in the great fief of Belfalas, dwelt Prince Imrahil in his castle of Dol Amroth by the sea, and he was of high blood, and his folk also, tall men and proud with sea-gray eyes. Oof. Sting, I haven't played Tales of the Shire yet, no, but is it any good? Any thoughts? Yeah, I'm sorry, that bit about the townlands were rich. Fucking cooking up a storm. Just the mouthfeel of that sentence has stuck with me since the first time I read this book. It's so fucking good. Yeah, Sting, I really like Stardew Valley, and I really enjoyed I mean, I like all the Harvest Moon games, really. I like Moonlighter a lot, which is similar. And there was another one I played on Steam that was like Coral Cove or something. Very similar to Stardew. But if it's anything like that, I'm like super down. And if you like it, I'll give it a try. I don't give a fuck. I'm tired of playing bad Lord of the Rings video games. I don't have a lot of patience for it. Okay. I think this frog in my throat's gone. Now after Gandalf had ridden for some time, the light of day grew in the sky, and Pippin roused himself and looked up. To his left lay a sea of mist, rising to a bleak shadow in the east, but to his right Great mountains reared their heads, ranging from the west to a steep and sudden end, as if in the making of the land the river had burst through a great barrier, carving out a mighty valley to be a land of battle and debate in times to come. And there, where the white mountains of Ered Nimre came to their end, he saw, as Gandalf had promised, the dark mass of Mount Mindalluin, the deep purple shadows of its high glens, and its tall face whitening in the rising day. And upon its outthrust knee was the guarded city, with its 7 walls of stone so strong and old that it seemed to have been not builded, but carven by giants out of the bones of the earth. Builded instead of built? Ooh, I fucking love Tolkien. And he said bones of the earth again, which is one of my favorite phrases. Even as Pippin gazed in wonder, the walls passed from looming gray to white, blushing faintly in the dawn. And suddenly the sun climbed over the eastern shadow and sent forth a shaft that smote the face of the city. Then Pippin cried aloud, for the tower of Ecthelion, standing high within the topmost wall, shone out against the sky, glimmering like a spike of pearl and silver, tall and fair and shapely, and its pinnacle glittered as if it were wrought of crystals, and white banners broke and fluttered from the battlements, and in the morning breeze, and high and far he heard a clear ringing as of silver trumpets. Marxaldehyde always bothered me that in the movies, Minas Tirith and Edoras exist in large seas of grass without any supporting agriculture. Same. I was watching Return of the King earlier to make my Minas Tirith fan cam edit, and I always found it kind of funny, like, so you built these miniatures and you did all this set building and you have all these incredible, like, drone shots, but you couldn't just put some, like, fields in the Pelennor fields. You couldn't have some farmland in there. And then Edoras, I love that they built Edoras on that big, like, plateau, that big rocky upcropping, I suppose, in the middle of a huge field. But same applies. Like, where are the farms at? I know you're not getting regular deliveries. Like, come on. Thank you, Sting. I'll definitely give it a try. And yes, Isaac, thank you. Supposedly, Pelennor Fields around Minas Tirith is meant to be a patchwork of farmland. I mean, it's called Pelennor Fields. Like, to me, that speaks of, like, farmland and, like, you know, the patchwork that you can see from, like, when you're on a plane or something. That's what I always expected to see there. So it being basically like a big open, like, I don't know, carnival field always seemed crazy. Like, I know it's the stage for a great battle that's going to happen, but, like, what was it before that? How are these people eating? And yeah, especially as we just had Tolkien's beautiful prose describing said farmland. Yeah, many orchards, tilth, fold and byre, rills rippling. Where are they? Where are they at? Yeah. I have, like, if anyone's gonna watch the movies with me on the 20th, by the way, I'm streaming all 3 of the movies in one day on the 20th. Please come hang out. I'll let y'all know what time I'm doing it as soon as I do, like, movie math or whatever. Y'all are probably gonna hear some of my, like, very specific criticisms of the movies because I love them a lot. I think they're fucking great. I'm really glad we get to have them, but I do have some notes. So, Gandalf and Peregrine rode to the great gate of men of Gondor at the rising of the sun, and its iron doors rolled back before them. Mithrandir, Mithrandir, men cried. Now we know that the storm is indeed nigh. It is upon you, said Gandalf. I have ridden on its wings. Let me pass. I must come to your lord Denethor while his stewardship lasts. Whatever betide, you have come to the end of the Gondor that you have known. Let me pass. S.H. What up? Turn the fuck up. Yes, let's go. I'll reread my favorite passage again later because you're here now. Then men fell back before the command of his voice and questioned him no further, though they gazed in wonder at the hobbit that sat before him and at the horse that bore him. For the people of the city used horses very little, and they were seldom seen in their streets, save only those ridden by the errand riders of their lord. And they said, Surely that is one of the great seeds of the king of Rohan? Maybe the Rohirrim will come soon to strengthen us. But Shadowfax walked proudly up the long winding road. For the fashion of Minas Tirith was such that it was built on 7 levels, each delved into the hill, and about each was set a wall, and in each wall was a gate, and in each gate lived a mouse, and each mouse wore a scarf. But the gates were not set in a line. The great gate in the city wall was at the east point of the circuit, but the next faced half south, and the third half north, and so to and fro upwards, so that the paved way that climbed towards the citadel turned first this way and then that across the face of the hill. And each time that it passed the line of the great gate, it went through an arched tunnel, piercing a vast pier of rock whose huge outthrust bulk divided in two all the circles of the city save the first. For partly in the primeval shaping of the hill, partly by the mighty craft and labor of old, there stood up from the rear of the wide court behind the gate a towering bastion of stone, its edge sharp as a ship keel facing east. Up it rose, even to the level of the topmost circle, and there was crowned by a battlement, so that those in the citadel might, like mariners in a mountainous ship, look from its peak sheer down upon the gate 700 feet below. The entrance to the citadel also looked eastward, but was delved in the heart of the rock. Thence a long lamp-lit slope ran up to the 7th gate. Thus men reached at last the high court and the place of the fountain before the feet of the white tower. Tall and shapely, 50 fathoms from its base to the pinnacle, where the banner of the stewards floated 1,000 feet above the plain. A strong citadel it was indeed, and not to be taken by a host of enemies, if there were any within that could hold weapons, unless some foe could come behind and scale the lower skirts of Mindalluin, and so come upon the narrow shoulder that joined the hill of guard to the mountain mass. But that shoulder, which rose to the height of the 5th wall, was hedged with great ramparts right up to the precipice that overhung its western end, and in that space stood the houses and domed tombs of bygone kings and lords, forever silent between the mountain and the tower. Pippin gazed in growing wonder at the great stone city, vaster and more splendid than anything that he had dreamed of, greater and stronger than Isengard, and far more beautiful. Yet it was in truth falling year by year into decay, and already it lacked half the men that could have dwelt at ease there. In every street they passed some great house or court over whose doors and arched gates were carved many fair letters of strange and ancient shapes, names Pippin guessed of great men and kindreds that had once dwelt there, and yet now they were silent, and no footsteps rang on their wide pavements, nor voice was heard in their halls, nor any face looked out from door or empty window. Remember, we're in the decline of Middle-earth? It's everywhere. At last they came out of shadow to the 7th gate, and the warm sun that shone down beyond the river, as Frodo walked in the glades of Ithilien, glowed here on the smooth walls and rooted pillars, and the great arch with keystone carven in the likeness of a crowned and kingly head. Gandalf dismounted, for no horse was allowed in the citadel, and Shadowfax suffered himself to be led away at the soft word of his master. The guards of the gate were robed in black, and their helms were of strange shape, high-crowned, with long cheek guards close-fitting to the face, and above the cheek guards were set the white wings of sea-birds. But the helms gleamed with a flame of silver, for they were indeed wrought of mithril, heirlooms from the glory of old days. Upon the black surcoats were embroidered in white a tree blossoming like snow beneath a silver crown and many pointed stars. This was the livery of the heirs of Elendil, and none wore it now in all Gondor, save the guards of the citadel before the court of the fountain, where the white tree once had grown. Here's a fun fact. My first ever tattoo was my interpretation of the white tree of Gondor. Already it seemed that word of their coming had gone before them, and at once they were admitted, silently and without question. Quickly Gandalf strode across the white-paved court. A sweet fountain played there in the morning sun, and a sward of bright green lay about it, but in the midst, drooping over the pool, stood a dead tree, and the falling drops dripped sadly from its barren and broken branches back into the clear water. Pippin glanced at it as he hurried after Gandalf. It looked mournful, he thought, and he wondered why the dead tree was left in this place where everything else was well tended. 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree. The words that Gandalf had murmured came back into his mind, and then he found himself at the doors of the great hall beneath the gleaming tower, and behind the wizard he passed the tall, silent door wardens and entered the cool, echoing shadows of the House of Stone. They walked down a paved passage, long and empty, and as they went, Gandalf spoke softly to Pippin. Be careful of your words, Master Peregrine. This is no time for hobbit pertness. Theoden is a kindly old man. Denethor is of another sort, proud and subtle, a man of far greater lineage and power, though he is not called a king. But he will speak most to you and question you much, since you can tell him of his son Boromir. He loved him greatly, too much perhaps, and the more so because they were unlike. But under cover of this love, he will think it easier to learn what he wishes from you rather than from me. Do not tell him more than you need, and leave quiet the matter of Frodo's errand. I will deal with that in due time. And say nothing about Aragorn either, unless you must. Why not? What's wrong with Strider? Pippin whispered. He meant to come here, didn't he? And he'll be arriving soon himself, anyway. Maybe, said Gandalf. Though if he comes, it is likely to be in some way that no one expects, not even Denethor. It will be better so. At least he should come At least he should come unheralded by us. Gandalf halted before a tall door of polished metal. See, Master Pippin, there is no time to instruct you now in the history of Gondor, though it might have been better if you had learned something of it when you were still birds nesting and playing truant in the woods of the Shire. Do as I bid. It is scarcely wise, when bringing the news of the death of his heir to a mighty lord, to speak much of the coming of one who will, if he comes, claim the kingship. Is that enough? Kingship? Said Pippin, amazed. Yes, said Gandalf. If you've walked all these days with closed ears and mind asleep, wake up now. He knocked on the door. Quick note here. I love this bit where Gandalf says, there's no time to instruct you now in the history of Gondor, though it might have been better if you'd learned something of it when you were still birds nesting and playing truant in the woods of the Shire. Now, just why the fuck, Gandalf, would Pippin be like, hey, maybe I should learn some stuff about Gondor? Unless Gandalf knew he was fucking grooming Pippin to go along on an adventure at some point or another. I have some theories about this. Tumblr also has some theories about this, and they're fucking hilarious. Have y'all heard about this? Tell me in chat if you have a suspicion of what I'm talking about, and I'll get into it more later. But Gandalf just has unreasonable expectations. Can Pippin read? Who knows? He can, but like, come on. The thing that Tumblr likes to say is that Gandalf fucked a toque way back in the day. Like in either The Hobbit or in the prologue, I can't remember which. It is said among hobbits that a long time ago, one of the toques must have taken a fairy wife. And it's like, what if it wasn't a fairy wife? What if it was a wizard fuck buddy? And that's why Gandalf is invested in hobbits and their welfare and specially selects for toques when he's picking hobbits for adventuring purposes, or at least toquish Baggins types. What's up, Zephyr? I'm sure the old toque has a good library. I'm positive of it. But are any of the hobbits reading anything in the library? Not necessarily, because their favorite thing are books that contain information that they already know laid out clearly and with no contradictions. So hobbits like to read their own family trees over and over, but they won't necessarily be doing research about faraway lands that they're never expecting to really travel to. Yeah, SH, Tumblr, yes, indeed. The home of any good ship is Tumblr. And then Sting makes sense, no notes. It is really funny. Like, it's a really funny and actually quite sound theory. It really fucking cracks me up. It's like one of those that I'm like, that's bullshit, but also it's hilarious, and it does kind of make a certain amount of sense if your tongue is somewhat in your cheek. And Zephyr, yeah, for sure. Like, they should be reading more, but there's other stuff to do, like birds nesting and playing truant. Like, come on. But yeah, I mean, it speaks to the nature of hobbits that, like, despite having an amazing library full of books, which again, undoubtedly Gerontius, the old Took, had, and definitely a great smiles they had, it's just not in their nature to be more curious about the outside world. Like, I think Pippin in particular, given the chance, would rather leave and go see it than he would want to read about it, I suppose. Hobbits are the race of men, but they have leaf-shaped ears. It's true. Hobbits are just another kind of men. The text is anthropocentric, but for hobbits, not for men. Hobbitocentric, I think, as Tolkien says in his letters. And I had something else today to say, but it slipped right out of my fucking head. Yeah, whatever. If it comes back to me, it will have been important. The door opened, but no one could be seen to open it. Pippin looked into a great hall. It was lit by deep windows in the wide aisles at either side, beyond the rows of tall pillars that upheld the roof. Monoliths of black marble, they rose to great capitals carved in many strange figures of beasts and leaves. And far above in shadow, the wide vaulting gleamed with dull gold, inset with flowing traceries of many colors. No hangings, nor storied webs, nor any things of woven stuff or of wood were to be seen in that long, solemn hall, but between the pillars there stood a silent company of tall images graven in cold stone. Just like the hardness and coldness of it. No hangings, no wood, no natural fibers to be seen here. No, sir. Pillars and marble and polished metal and stone. Suddenly, Pippin was reminded of the hewn rocks of Argonath, and awe fell on him, and he looked down that avenue of kings long dead. At the far end, upon a dais of many steps, was set a high throne under a canopy of marble shaped like a crowned helm. Behind it was carved upon the wall and set with gems an image of a tree in flower. But the throne was empty. At the foot of the dais, upon the lowest step, which was broad and deep, there was a stone chair, black and unadorned, and on it sat an old man gazing at his lap. In his hand was a white rod with a golden knob. He did not look up. Solemnly, they paced the long floor towards him until they stood 3 paces from his footstool. Then Gandalf spoke. Hail, Lord and Steward of Minas Tirith, Denethor, son of Ecthelion. Denethor, son of Ecthelion. There we go. I am come with counsel and tidings in this dark hour. Isaac, do hobbits have schools? I don't know. That's a great question. I assume not, because there's a note that Bilbo taught Sam his letters, meaning no harm, mind you. So if there are schools, they're only available to upper class hobbits. But I get the sense that it's like all hobbits are homeschooled. Like if their parents are lettered, then they can like teach their kids how to read and write. Yeah, no public schools. Private schools, maybe. Gandalf, perhaps. Bilbo, maybe. Like private tutoring. Also, the thing I forgot about, which is not important. But I say great smiles, and everyone's like, it's Smeals. But I have backwards justified my own mispronunciation here because in the drafts of Lord of the Rings, the early ones, Tolkien spells it Smiles, which is pronounced smiles. I don't care what side of the Atlantic you're on. So that's my justification for saying it wrong. I know it's wrong, but it makes me laugh. Great smiles? That cracks me up. Come on. Frodo has big homeschool energy. Yeah, he really does. Nice one. Get his ass. All right. Then the old man looked up. Pippin saw his carven face with its proud bones and skin like ivory, and the long curved nose between the dark, deep eyes, and he was reminded not so much of Boromir as of Aragorn. Dark indeed is the hour, said the old man, and at such times you are wont to come, Mithrandir. But though all the signs forebode that the doom of Gondor is drawing nigh, less now to me is that darkness than my own darkness. It has been told to me that you bring with you one who saw my son die. Is this he? It is, said Gandalf, one of the twain. The other is with Theoden of Rohan, and may come hereafter. Halflings they are, as you see. Yet this is not he of whom the omens spoke. Yet a halfling still, said Denethor grimly, and little love do I bear the name, since those accursed words came to trouble our counsels and drew away my son on the wild errand to his death. My Boromir, now we have need of you. Faramir should have gone in his stead. He would have gone, said Gandalf. Be not unjust in your grief. Boromir claimed the errand, and would not suffer any other to have it. He was a masterful man, and one to take what he desired. I journeyed far with him and learned much of his mood. But you speak of his death. You've had news of that ere we came? I have received this, said Denethor, and laying down his rod, he lifted from his lap the thing that he'd been gazing at. In each hand he held up one half of a great horn cloven through the middle, a wild ox horn bound with silver. "That's the horn that Boromir always wore," cried Pippin. "Verily," said Denethor, "and in my turn I bore it, and so did each eldest son of our house, far back into the vanished years before the failing of the kings, since Vorondil, father of Mardil, hunted the wild kine of Ara in the far fields of Rhûn. I heard it blowing dim upon the northern marches 13 days ago, and the river brought it to me, broken. It will wind no more." He paused, and there was heavy silence. Suddenly he turned his black glance upon Pippin. "What say you to that, halfling?" 13 days, faltered Pippin. "Yes, I think that would be so. Yes, I stood beside him as he blew the horn, but no help came, only more orcs." "So," said Denethor, looking keenly at Pippin's face, "you were there? Tell me more. Why did no help come? And how did you escape, and yet he did not, so mighty a man as he was, and only orcs to withstand him?" Pippin's like, "Yeah, I was there, and no help came, only more orcs." And Denethor's like, "Oh, your trauma? Let's dig in." Like, he's such, ugh, I get it. He's grieving, but like, what a fucking asshole. Pippin flushed and forgot his fear. "The mightiest man may be slain by one arrow," he said, "and Boromir was pierced by many. When last I saw him, he sank beside a tree and plucked a black-feathered shaft from his side. Then I swooned and was made captive. I saw him no more and know no more. But I honor his memory, for he was very valiant. He died to save us, my kinsman Meriadoc and myself, waylaid in the woods by the soldiery of the Dark Lord. And though he fell and failed, my gratitude is none the less." Then Pippin looked the old man in the eye, for pride stirred strangely within him, still stung by the scorn and suspicion in that cold voice. Tolkien's trying to kill me with all these S's, dude. Oh my god. "Little service, no doubt, will so great a lord of men think to find in a hobbit, a halfling from the northern shire. Yet, such as it is, I will offer it in payment of my debt." Twitching aside his grey cloak, Pippin drew forth his small sword and laid it at Denethor's feet. Excuse me. Mark's aldehyde and one to take what he desired. Yes. And Gandalf wasn't even fucking there for that part. How does he know? I love it. Did fucking Galadriel tell him? I want to be a fly on that wall. And then yes, SH, crazy good example of small magic in the horn. Uh-huh. Yep. The horn has a homing device in it, AirTag style, I guess. But yeah, the broken horn washing up on the banks. I also saw like a Reddit discussion a few weeks ago where like, sorry, users of Reddit, people on there are fucking brain dead. Like, people do not want to accept like soft or subtle magic as the magic system of Middle Earth. They're like, but what are the rules? It's like, it's magic. There are no rules, but Boromir being in the boat going over the falls of Raros and then being in the river and still being intact and like the horn being intact, that's magic, babe. Intact. I know it's cloven in two, but I think you know what I'm getting at. So Pippin draws forth his small sword and lays it at Denethor's feet. A pale smile, like a gleam of cold sun on a winter's evening, passed over the old man's face, but he bent his head and held out his hand, laying the shards of the horn aside. "Give me the weapon," he said. Pippin lifted it and presented the hilt to him. "Whence came this?" said Denethor. "Many, many years lie on it. Surely this is a blade wrought by our own kindred in the north in the deep past." "It came out of the mounds that lie on the borders of my country," said Pippin, "but only evil wights dwell there now, and I will not willingly tell more of them." "I see that strange tales are woven about you," said Denethor, "and once again it is shown that looks may belie the man, or the halfling. I accept your service, for you are not daunted by words, and you have courteous speech, strange though the sound of it may be to us in the south. And we shall have need of all folk of courtesy, be they great or small, in the days to come. Swear to me now." "Take the hilt," said Gandalf, "and speak after the Lord if you are resolved on this." "I am," said Pippin. The old man laid the sword along his lap, and Pippin put his hand to the hilt and said slowly after Denethor, Here do I swear fealty and service to Gondor and to the Lord and Steward of the realm, to speak and to be silent, to do and to let be, to come and to go, in need or plenty, in peace or war, in living or dying from this hour henceforth, until my Lord release me, or death take me, or the world end. So say I, Peregrine, son of Paladin, of the Shire of the Halflings. And this do I hear, Denethor, son of Ecthelion, lord of Gondor, steward of the High King, and I will not forget it, nor fail to reward that which is given. Fealty with love, valor with honor, oath-breaking with vengeance. Then Pippin received back his sword and put it in his sheath. And now, said Denethor, my first command to you, speak, and be not silent. Tell me your full tale, and see that you recall all that you can of Boromir my son. Sit now, and begin. As he spoke, he struck a small silver gong that stood near his footstool, and at once servants came forward. Pippin saw then that they had been standing in alcoves on either side of the door, unseen as he and Gandalf entered. Bring wine and food and seats for the guests, said Denethor, and see that none trouble us for 1 hour. It is all that I have to spare, for there is much else to heed, he said to Gandalf. Much of more import, it may seem, and yet to me less pressing. But maybe we can speak again at the end of the day. And earlier, it is to be hoped, said Gandalf, for I have not ridden hither from Isengard 150 leagues with the speed of wind, only to bring you one small warrior, however courteous. Is it not to you that Theoden has fought a great battle, and that Isengard is overthrown, and that I have broken the staff of Saruman? It is much to me, but I know already sufficient of these deeds for my own counsel against the menace of the East. He turned his dark eyes on Gandalf, and now Pippin saw a likeness between the two, and he felt the strain between them, almost as if he saw a line of smoldering fire drawn from eye to eye that might suddenly burst into flame. Ugh! Ooh! Oh, we get some fucking whip ass writing in this chapter, dude. Come on. Zephyr, the Horn of Gondor, caused the Balrog to hesitate and cast a counterspell of dark wind in Moria. Ooh. Okay. I need to get in on that. Fucking hell, look at that. Denethor is pissing Gandalf off right here. Ooh, Gandalf is pissed. He's like, I didn't fucking come all the way here just to deliver Peregrine, son of Paladin of the Shire of the Halflings to you, idiot. I have shit to tell you. Like, what are you talking about? And Denethor's like, I already know about all that, at least as much as I need to know. Nana, nana, boo, boo. I'm going to talk to this hobbit. Like, and Pippin, seeing the likeness between them, the line of smoldering fire drawn from eye to eye that might suddenly burst into flame, like, ooh. Ooh, my boy is mad perceptive, and he's perceiving that he does not want to be in this room with these two angry old men right now. Denethor looked indeed much more like a great wizard than Gandalf did, more kingly, beautiful, and powerful, and older. Yet, by a sense other than sight, Pippin perceived that Gandalf had the greater power and the deeper wisdom, and a majesty that was veiled. And he was older, far older. How much older? He wondered, and then he thought how odd it was that he'd never thought about it before. Treebeard had said something about wizards, but even then he'd not thought of Gandalf as one of them. What was Gandalf? In what far time and place did he come into the world, and when would he leave it? And then his musings broke off, and he saw that Denethor and Gandalf still looked each other in the eye, as if reading the other's mind. But it was Denethor who first withdrew his gaze. Yea, yea, he said, for though the stones be lost, they say, still the lords of Gondor have keener sight than lesser men, and many messages come to them. But sit now. Sorry, real quick. It's so cute to me that Pippin's like standing there and like watching them being like, oh my god, what's going on? And then he gets lost in thought. He's like, what the fuck even? How old is Gandalf? What even is he? Like, when did he get here and when's he leaving? And when he comes out of it, like Denethor and Gandalf are still like having a staring contest. It's like, it's awful, but it's also really fucking funny. Fresh Prince, yeah, sure. Let me start over. Everyone cool if I start over? For my boy? Come on now. You'll catch up. Then men came bearing a chair and a low stool, and one brought a salver with a silver flagon and cups and white cakes. Pippin sat down, but he could not take his eyes from the old lord. Was it so, or had he only imagined it, that as he spoke of the stones, a sudden gleam of his eye had glanced upon Pippin's face? "Now tell me your tale, my liege," said Denethor, half kindly and half mockingly, "for the words of one whom my son so befriended will be welcome indeed." Pippin never forgot that hour in the great hall under the piercing eye of the Lord of Gondor, stabbed ever and anon by his shrewd questions, and all the while conscious of Gandalf at his side, watching and listening, and, so Pippin felt, holding in check a rising wrath and impatience. When the hour was over, and Denethor again rang the gong, Pippin felt worn out. It cannot be more than 9 o'clock, he thought. I could now eat 3 breakfasts on end. "Lead the Lord Mithrandir to the housing prepared for him," said Denethor, "and his companion may lodge with him for the present if he will. But be it known that I have now sworn him to my service, and he shall be known as Peregrine, son of Paladin, and taught the lesser passwords. Send word to the captains that they shall wait on me here, and soon as may be after the 3rd hour has rung. And you, my lord Mithrandir, shall come too, as and when you will. None shall hinder your coming to me at any time, save only in my brief hours of sleep. Let your wrath at an old man's folly run off, and then return to my comfort." "Folly?" said Gandalf. "Nay, my lord, when you are a dotard you will die. You can even use your grief as a cloak. Do you think that I do not understand your purpose in questioning for an hour one who knows the least, while I sit by?" And Pippin's like, "Hey." "If you understand it, then be content," returned Denethor. "Pride would be folly that disdained help and counsel at need, but you deal out such gifts according to your own designs. Yet the Lord of Gondor is not to be made the tool of other men's purposes, however worthy. And to him there is no purpose higher in the world than as it now stands than the good of Gondor. And the rule of Gondor, my lord, is mine, and no other man's, unless the king should come again." "Unless the king should come again," said Gandalf. "Well, my lord steward, it is your task to keep some kingdom still against that event, which few now look to see. In that task you shall have all the aid that you are pleased to ask for. But I will say this, the rule of no realm is mine, neither of Gondor nor any other, great or small. But all worthy things that are in peril as the world now stands, those are my care. And for my part, I shall not wholly fail of my task, though Gondor should perish, if anything passes through this night that can still grow fair or bear fruit and flower again in days to come. For I also am a steward. Did you not know?" And with that, he turned and strode from the hall with Pippin running at his side. "Buddy boy, buddy." Denethor's like, "It's my job to make sure Gondor's all good." And Gandalf's like, "Yeah, I fucking know that, dude. Okay? If the king should fucking come again. How dare you? The entirety of Middle-earth is my burden to bear. Thank you so very fucking much, for I'm also a steward. Did you not know?" He's like, "I don't give a fuck if Gondor falls. If there's any good left on this earth, that's what I'm fucking here to take care of and look after." And I'm looking for a word and I can't find it, but like, it's a good book. I like the book. Gandalf did not look at Pippin or speak a word to him as they went. Their guide brought them from the doors of the hall and then led them across the court of the fountain into a lane between tall buildings of stone. After several turns, they came to a house close to the wall of the citadel upon the north side, not far from the shoulder that linked the hill with the mountain. Within, upon the first floor above the street, up a wide carven stair, he showed them to a fair room, light and airy, with goodly hangings of dull gold sheen unfigured. It was sparsely furnished, having but a small table, 2 chairs, and a bench, but at either side there were curtained alcoves and well-clad beds within, with vessels and basins for washing. There were 3 high, narrow windows that looked northward over the great curve of Anduin, still shrouded in mists, towards the Emyn Muil and Rauros far away. Pippin had to climb on the bench to look out over the deep stone sill. Cute. Zephyr. Correct. Gandalf claiming he's also a steward is important. Hell yeah, it fucking is. Because Denethor truly thinks, like, the rule of Gondor is mine because I'm a steward. Okay? And Gandalf's like, I'm also a steward, but I rule no realm. It is stewardship that is my concern, not rule. So, like, we have these two stewards, one of Gondor and one of the entirety of Middle Earth. That's what the wizards are, in my view, anyway. They're stewards. They're not really there to, like, necessarily, like, change the course of events. That's not up to them. That's Eru. What Gandalf is here to do is to kind of, like, nudge things in the right direction. Like when you roll a bowling ball and then you move your body to try and make it move. That's kind of what Gandalf is doing, right? He's playing like a blind game of chess where he's just putting figures on the board and being like, well, and let's fucking see. Like that's him adding Bilbo to the dwarf party in The Hobbit. That's him insisting that Merry and Pippin be included on the quest at Rivendell. That's what he's doing. He's kind of like nudging things. He's kind of like making a little adjustment here and there to get the mix just right. Gandalf is like DJ Steward of Middle Earth. Like if the music of the Ainur is the master mix, Gandalf is like DJing. Are you angry with me, Gandalf? He said as their guide went out and closed the door. I did the best I could. You did indeed, said Gandalf, laughing suddenly, and he came and stood beside Pippin, putting his arm about the hobbit's shoulders and gazing out of the window. Pippin glanced in some wonder at the face now very close beside his own, for the sound of that laugh had been gay and merry. Yet in the wizard's face he saw at first only lines of care and sorrow, though as he looked more intently, he perceived that under all there was a great joy, a fountain of mirth enough to set a kingdom laughing were it to gush forth. Like, Pippin doesn't know what Gandalf is, but he does know Gandalf very well. It's so fucking cute. Indeed, you did your best, said the wizard, and I hope that it may be long before you find yourself in such a tight corner again between two such terrible old men. Still, the Lord of Gondor learned more from you than you may have guessed, Pippin. You could not hide the fact that Boromir did not lead the company from Moria, and that there was one among you of high honor who was coming to Minas Tirith, and that he had a famous sword. Men think much about the stories of old days in Gondor, and Denethor has given long thought to the rhyme and to the words Isildur's bane since Boromir went away. He is not as other men of this time, Pippin, and whatever be his descent from father to son, by some chance the blood of Westerness runs nearly true in him, as it does in his other son Faramir, and yet did not in Boromir, whom he loved best. He has long sight. He can perceive, if he bends his will thither, much of what is passing in the minds of men, even of those that dwell far off. It is difficult to deceive him, and dangerous to try. Remember that, for you are now sworn to his service. I do not know what put it into your head or your heart to do that, but it was well done. I did not hinder it, for generous deeds should not be checked by cold counsel. It touched his heart as well, may I say it, as pleasing his humor, and at least you are free now to move about as you will in Minas Tirith when you are not on duty. For there is another side to it. You are at his command, and he will not forget. Be wary still. He fell silent and sighed. Well, no need to brood on what tomorrow may bring. For one thing, tomorrow will be certain to bring worse than today, for many days to come, and there is nothing more that I can do to help it. The board is set, and the pieces are moving. Chess! One piece that I greatly desire to find is Faramir, now the heir of Denethor. I do not think that he is in the city, but I've had no time to gather news. I must go, Pippin. I must go to this Lord's Council and learn what I can. But the enemy has the move, and he's about to open his full game. And pawns are likely to see as much of it as any, Peregrine, son of Paladin, soldier of Gondor. Sharpen your blade. Straight up just calling Pippin a pawn, like, fucking shady old bitch. I fucking love Gandalf. Gandalf went to the door, and there he turned. I am in haste, Pippin, he said. Do me a favor when you go out, even before you rest, if you are not too weary. Go and find Shadowfax and see how he is housed. These people are kindly to beasts, for they are a good and wise folk, but they have less skill with horses than some. Shade! With that, Gandalf went out, and as he did so, there came the note of a clear, sweet bell ringing in a tower of the citadel. 3 strokes it rang, like silver in the air, and ceased, the 3rd hour from the rising of the sun. After a minute, Pippin went to the door and down the stair and looked about the street. The sun was now shining warm and bright, and the towers and tall houses cast long, clear-cut shadows westward. High in the blue air, Mount Mindalluin lifted its white helm and snowy cloak. Armed men went to and fro in the ways of the city, as if going at the striking of the hour to changes of post and duty. 9 o'clock, we'd call it in the Shire, said Pippin aloud to himself. Just the time for a nice breakfast by the open window in spring sunshine. And how I should like breakfast. Do these people ever have it, or is it over? And when do they have dinner, and where? Hobbit PR team, it's the Hobbit PR team. Presently, he noticed a man clad in black and white coming along the narrow street from the center of the citadel towards him. Pippin felt lonely and made up his mind to speak as the man passed, but he had no need. The man came straight up to him. "You are Peregrine the Halfling?" he said. "I'm told that you've been sworn to the service of the Lord in the city. Welcome." He held out his hand, and Pippin took it. "I am named Baragon, son of Baranor. I have no duty this morning, and I've been sent to teach you the passwords and to tell you some of the many things that no doubt you will wish to know. And, for my part, I would learn of you also. For never before have we seen a halfling in this land, and though we've heard rumor of them, little is said of them in any tale that we know. Moreover, you are a friend of Mithrandir. Do you know him well?" "Well," said Pippin, "I have known of him all my short life, as you might say, and lately I've traveled far with him. But there is much to read in that book, and I cannot claim to have seen more than a page or two. Yet, perhaps I know him as well as any but a few. Aragorn was the only one of our company, I think, who really knew him." "Aragorn?" said Baragon. "Who's he?" "Oh," stammered Pippin, "he was a man who went about with us. I think he's in Rohan now." "You've been in Rohan, I hear." "Where'd you hear that?" "There is much that I would ask you of that land also, for we put much of what little hope we have in its people. But I am forgetting my errand, which was first to answer what you would ask. What would you know, Master Peregrine?" Well," said Pippin, "if I may venture to say so, rather a burning question in my mind at present is, well, what about breakfast and all that? I mean, what are the meal times, if you understand me, and where's the dining room, if there is one, and the inns? I looked, but never one could I see as we rode up, though I'd been borne up by the hope of a draught of ale as soon as we came to the homes of wise and courtly men." Baragond looked at him gravely. "An old campaigner, I see," he said. "They say that men who go warring afield look ever to the next hope of food and drink, though I am not a traveled man myself. Then you have not eaten yet today?" "Well, yes, to speak in courtesy, yes," said Pippin, "but no more than a cup of wine and a white cake or two by the kindness of your lord. But he racked me for it with an hour of questions, and that is hungry work." Pippin's like, "No, dude, I fully had cake and wine. I'm lit right now, but like, I'm still hungry." Baragon laughed. "At the table, small men may do the greater deeds, we say. But you've broken your fast as well as any man in the citadel, and with greater honor. This is a fortress and tower of guard and is now in posture of war. We rise ere the sun, take a morsel in the gray light, and go to our duties at the opening hour. But do not despair." He laughed again, seeing the dismay in Pippin's face. "Those who have had heavy duty take somewhat to refresh their strength in the mid-morning. Then there is the nuncheon at noon or after as duties allow, and men gather for the day meal, and such mirth as there still may be about the hour of sunset. Come, we will walk a little, and then go find us some refreshment, and eat and drink on the battlement, and survey the fair morning." "One moment," said Pippin, blushing. "Greed, or hunger by your courtesy, put it out of my mind. But Gandalf, Mithrandir as you call him, asked me to see to his horse, Shadowfax, a great steed of Rohan, and the apple of the king's eye, I'm told, though he has given him to Mithrandir for his services." "He was stolen, and then begrudgingly given. Thank you very much. I think his new master loves the beast better than he loves many men, and if his good will is of any value to this city, you will treat Shadowfax with all honor, with greater kindness than you have treated this hobbit, if it is possible." "Hobbit?" said Baragon. "That's what we call ourselves," said Pippin. "Hobbit PR team." "I am glad to learn it," said Baragon, "for now I may say that strange accents do not mar fair speech, and hobbits are a fair-spoken folk. But come, ye shall make me acquainted with this good horse. I love beasts, and we see them seldom in this stony city, for my people came from the mountain vales, and before that from Ithilien. But fear not, the visit shall be short, a mere call of courtesy, and we will go thence to the butteries." Pippin found that Shadowfax had been well housed and tended, For in the sixth circle, outside the walls of the citadel, there were some fair stables where a few swift horses were kept, hard by the lodgings of the errand riders of the Lord, messengers always ready to go at the urgent command of Denethor or his chief captains. But now all the horses and the riders were out and away. Shadowfax whinnied as Pippin entered the stable and turned his head. "Good morning," said Pippin. "Gandalf will come as soon as he may. He is busy, but he sends greetings, and I am to see that all is well with you, and you resting, I hope, after your long labors." Shadowfax tossed his head and stamped, but he allowed Beregond to handle his head gently and stroke his great flanks. "He looks as if he were spoiling for a race, and not newly come from a great journey," said Beregond. "How strong and proud he is! Where is his harness? It should be rich and fair." "None is rich and fair enough for him," said Pippin. "He will have none. If he will consent to bear you he does, and if not, well, no bit, bridle, whip, or thong will tame him. Farewell, Shadowfax. Have patience. Battle is coming." Shadowfax lifted up his head and neighed, so that the stable shook, and they covered their ears. Then they took their leave, seeing that the manger was well filled. I love when Shadowfax gets to be a character and have dialogue. It's cute. "And now for our manger," said Beregond, and he led Pippin back to the citadel, and so on to a door in the north side of the great tower. There they went down a long, cool stair into a wide alley lit with lamps. There were hatches in the walls of the side, and one of these was open. "This is the storehouse and buttery of my company of the guard," said Beregond. "Greetings, Targon," he called through the hatch. "It is early yet, but here is a newcomer from the Lord that the Lord has taken into his service. He has ridden long and far with a tight belt, and he's had sore labor this morning, and he's hungry. Give us what you have." They got there bread and butter and cheese and apples, the last of the winter store, wrinkled but sound and sweet, and a leather flagon of new-drawn ale, and wooden platters and cups. They put all into a wicker basket and climbed back into the sun, and Beregond brought Pippin to a place at the east end of the great outthrust battlement, where there was an embrasure in the walls with a stone seat beneath the sill. From there they could look out on the morning over the world. They ate and drank, and they talked now of Gondor and its ways and customs, and now of the Shire and the strange countries that Pippin had seen. And ever as they talked, Beregond was more amazed, and looked with greater wonder at the hobbit, swinging his short legs as he sat on the seat, or standing tiptoe upon it to peer over the sill at the lands below. It bears repeating, hobbits are canonically leg danglers. "I will not hide from you, Master Peregrine," said Beregond, "that to us you look almost as one of our children, a lad of 9 summers or so, and yet you've endured perils and seen marvels that few of our graybeards could boast of. I thought it was the whim of our Lord to take him a noble page, after the manner of the kings of old, they say, but I see that it is not so, and you must pardon my foolishness." "I do," said Pippin, "though you are not far wrong. I'm still little more than a boy in the reckoning of my own people, and it will be 4 years yet before I come of age, as we say in the Shire. But do not bother about me. Come and look and tell me what I can see." Just fucking guys being dudes, man. It's so cute. And I love Beregond being like, I misunderestimated you, my guy. Like, looks can be deceiving, and you don't look like much. You look like you're a 9-year-old fucking child, but like you've done and seen more than most people could ever boast of, ever, anywhere, here or elsewhere. And Pippin's like, "Yeah, I know. But don't worry about that. What can I see? Like, come and look and tell me what I can see." And that to me speaks to the humbleness of Pippin and of all hobbits. They're like really not interested in how impressive everyone thinks they are. They just want to know more about what the fuck is going on. Like, do not bother about me. Come and look and tell me what I can see. Tattoo it on my ass, dude. Like, that's such a fucking wonderful way to move through the world. Mwah, I love it. The sun was now climbing, and the mists in the vale below had been drawn up. The last of them were floating away, just overhead, as wisps of white cloud borne on the stiffening breeze from the east that was now flapping and tugging the flags and the white standards of the citadel. Away down in the valley bottom, 5 leagues or so as the eye leaps, the great river could now be seen gray and glittering, coming out of the northwest and bending in a mighty sweep south and west again, till it was lost to view in a haze and shimmer, far beyond which lay the sea 50 leagues away. Pippin could see all the Pelennor laid out before him, dotted into the distance with farmsteads and little walls, barns and byres, but nowhere could he see any kine or other beasts. Again, the Pelennor fields are farmland. There's barns. There's little walls, dude. Come on now. Many roads and tracks crossed the green fields, and there was much coming and going, wains moving in lines towards the great gate, she's turned the wains against us, and others passing out. Now and again, a horseman would ride up and leap from the saddle and hasten into the city, but most of the traffic went out along the chief highway, and that turned south, and then bending swifter than the river, skirted the hills and passed soon from sight. It was wide and well paved, and along its eastern edge ran a broad green riding track, and beyond that a wall. On the ride, horsemen galloped to and fro, but all the street seemed to be choked with great covered wains going south. But soon Pippin saw that all was in fact well ordered. The wains were moving in 3 lines, one swifter drawn by horses, another slower, great wagons with fair housings of many colors drawn by oxen, and along the west rim of the road many smaller carts hauled by trudging men. Traffic. That is the road to the vales of Tumladen and Lossarnoch and the mountain villages, and then on to Lebanon, said Beregond. There go the last of the wains that bear away to refuge the aged, the children, and the women that must go with them. They must all be gone from the gate, and the road clear for a league before noon. That was the order. It is a sad necessity, he sighed. Few, maybe, of those now sundered will meet again. And there were always too few children in the city, and now there are none, save some young lads that will not depart, and may find some task to do. My own son is one of them. They fell silent for a while. Pippin gazed anxiously eastward, as if at any moment he might see thousands of orcs pouring over the fields. What can I see there? He asked, pointing down to the middle of the great curve of the Anduin. Is that another city, or what is it? It was a city, said Beregond, the chief city of Gondor, of which this was only a fortress, for that is the ruin of Osgiliath on either side of Anduin, which our enemies took and burned long ago. Yet we won it back in the days of the youth of Denethor, not to dwell in, but to hold as an outpost, and to rebuild the bridge for the passage of our arms. And then came the fell riders out of Minas Morgul. The Black Riders, said Pippin, opening his eyes, and they were wide and dark with an old fear reawakened. Dude, fucking hobbits having PTSD fucks me up. Yes, they were black, said Beregond, and I see that you know something of them, though you've not spoken of them in any of your tales. I know of them, said Pippin softly, but I will not speak of them now, so near, so near. He broke off and lifted his eyes above the river, and it seemed to him that all he could see was a vast and threatening shadow. Perhaps it was mountains looming on the verge of sight, their jagged edges softened by well-nigh 20 leagues of misty air. Perhaps it was but a cloud wall, and beyond that again a yet deeper gloom. But even as he looked, it seemed to his eyes that the gloom was growing and gathering, very slowly, slowly rising to smother the regions of the sun. So near to Mordor? Said Beregond quietly. Yes, there it lies. We seldom name it, but we have dwelt ever in sight of that shadow. Sometimes it seems fainter and more distant, sometimes nearer and darker. It is growing and darkening now, and therefore our fear and disquiet grow too. And the Fell Riders, less than a year ago, they won back the crossings, and many of our best men were slain. Boromir it was that drove the enemy at last back from this western shore, and we hold still the near half of Osgiliath for a little while. But we await now a new onslaught there, maybe the chief onslaught of the war that comes. When? Said Pippin. Have you a guess? For I saw the beacons last night, and the errand riders, and Gandalf said that it was a sign that war had begun. He seemed in a desperate hurry. But now everything seems to have slowed up again. Important note, in the book, the beacons are lit before Merry and Pippin ride to Minas Tirith. Okay? Pippin does not have to free solo a fucking V10 tower to light the first beacon. Keep that shit in mind for when we watch the movies on the 20th. Because that bit makes me lose my fucking marbles every time I see it. Everything seems to have slowed up again. Only because everything is now ready, said Beregond. It is but the deep breath before the plunge. But why were the beacons lit last night? It is over late to send for aid when you're already besieged, answered Beregond. But I do not know the counsel of the Lord and his captains. They have many ways of gathering news, and the Lord Denethor is unlike other men. he sees far. Some say that as he sits alone in his high chamber in the tower at night and bends his thought this way and that he can read somewhat of the future, and that he will at times search even the mind of the enemy, wrestling with him. And so it and so it is that he is old, worn before his time. But however that may be, my lord Faramir is abroad, beyond the river on some perilous errand, and he may have sent tidings. But if you know what I but if you would know what I think set the beacons ablaze, it was the news that came yestereve out of Lebanon. There is a great fleet drawing near to the mouths of Anduin, manned by the corsairs of Umbar in the south. They have long ceased to fear the might of Gondor, and they have allied them with the enemy, and now make a heavy stroke in his cause. For this attack will draw off much of the help that we look to have from Lebanon and Belfalas, where folk are hardy and numerous. All the more do our thoughts go north to Rohan, and the more glad we are for these tidings of victory that you bring. And yet, he paused and stood up and looked round, north, east, and south. The doings at Isengard should warn us that we are caught now in a great net in strategy. This is no longer a bickering at the fords, raiding from Ithilien and from Anorion, ambushing and pillaging. This is a great war long planned, and we are but one piece in it, whatever pride may say. Things move in the far east beyond the inland sea, it is reported, and north and Mirkwood and beyond, and south and Harad. And now all realms shall be put to the test, to stand or fall under the shadow. Yet, Master Peregrine, we have this honor. Ever we bear the brunt of the chief hatred of the Dark Lord, for that hatred comes down out of the depths of time and over the deeps of the sea. Here will the hammer stroke fall hardest, and for that reason Mithrandir came hither in such haste. For if we fall, who shall stand? And, Master Peregrine, do you see any hope that we shall stand? Pippin did not answer. He looked at the great walls and the towers and brave banners, and the sun in the high sky, and then at the gathering gloom in the east, and he thought of the long fingers of that shadow, of the orcs in the woods and the mountains, the treason of Isengard, the birds of evil eye and the black riders even in the lanes of the Shire, and of the winged terror, the Nazgul. He shuddered, and hope seemed to wither, and even at that moment the sun for a second faltered and was obscured, as though a dark wing had passed across it. Almost beyond hearing, he thought he caught, high and far up in the heavens, a cry, faint but heart-quelling, cruel and cold. He blanched and cowered against the wall. "What was that?" asked Beregond. "You also felt something?" "Yes," muttered Pippin. "It is the sign of our fall and the shadow of doom, a fell rider on the air." "Yes, the shadow of doom," said Beregond. "I fear that Minas Tirith shall fall. Night comes. The very warmth of my blood seems stolen away." Isaac literally took the fucking words right out of my mouth. I still think it's a crime that Beregond was cut from the movies, especially because they use so many of his words for other characters. Like Legolas and Gandalf both say some of the lines that Beregond says here. I think Gimli has one as well. The warmth of my blood seems stolen away. I think Gimli says that. Yeah, Baragon, Bergil, Imrahil, they did miss a lot. The fucking houses of healing as well, which we will be getting to. Oh my fucking god, they missed an entire dynamic that happens in the houses of healing. And again, like I get it. It's a necessary evil of adapting this book to film, but like I really could have used some Baragon, dog. Like I feel like it would have been a nice kind of redeeming foil to Boromir in a way. Would have given a lot more character to Gondor as a whole. 100%. Like, I love this chapter. Again, like, it's like Pippin and Gandalf who are my two favorite characters, but it's also like we get to learn so much about Gondor and Minas Tirith and like how tragic it is and how it's like in decline and there are too few children in the city. Like, it's a beautiful, proud, wonderful place, but it's also like very dark and cold and sad and like, oh, I love it. I love Baragon just like monologuing about history. It's so cute. Like, good thing he's off duty today so he can talk to Pippin all day. It's really sweet. Oof. For a time, they sat together with bowed heads and did not speak. Then, suddenly, Pippin looked up and saw that the sun was still shining and the banners still streaming in the breeze. He shook himself. "It is past," he said. "No, my heart will not yet despair. Gandalf fell and has returned and is with us. We may stand, if only on one leg, or at least be left still upon our knees. My fucking boy! Zephyr, I agree. Trade Legolas taking down an Oliphant for some Baragond. I know. I know. But Peter Jackson needed to get his chain walking, shield surfing elf back in the mix. Legolas doesn't get to have a personality, so at least he gets to have some action sequences, I guess. But Pippin saying we may stand if only on one leg, or at least be left still upon our knees. I just love him. I just love him. The unquenchable spirit of hobbits made manifest, babe. Rightly said, cried Baragond, rising and striding to and fro. Nay, though all things must come utterly to an end in time, Gondor shall not perish yet, not though the walls be taken by a reckless foe that will build a hill of carrion before them. There are still other fastnesses and secret ways of escape into the mountains. Hope and memory shall live still in some hidden valley where the grass is green. Chat, you're making me laugh. I'm sorry. Isaac, we can't do away with that scene. Uncanonical though it may be, it's hilarious. Yes, it is. Oh man, I can't wait to get drunk and watch these movies, dude. All the same, I wish it was over for good or ill, said Pippin. I am no warrior at all and dislike any thought of battle, but waiting on the edge of one that I can't escape is worst of all. What a long day it seems already. I should be happier if we were not obliged to stand and watch, making no move, striking nowhere first. No stroke would have been struck in Rohan, I think, but for Gandalf. Ah, there you lay your finger on the sore that many feel, said Beregond. But things may change when Faramir returns. He is bold, more bold than many deem, for in these days men are slow to believe that a captain can be wise and learned in the scrolls of lore and song as he is, and yet such a man of hardihood and swift judgment in the field. But such is Faramir, less reckless and eager than Boromir, but not less resolute. Yet what indeed can he do? We cannot assault the mountains of yonder realm. Our reach is shortened, and we cannot strike till some foe comes within it. Then our hand must be heavy. He smote the hilt of his sword. Pippin looked at him, tall and proud and noble, as all the men that he had yet seen in that land, and with a glitter in his eye he thought of the battle. Alas, my own hand feels as light as a feather, he thought, but he said nothing. A pawn, did Gandalf say? Perhaps, but on the wrong chessboard. Got him. All right, I will be right back. My dog is currently trapped in the kitchen. I have to go free her. I'm so sorry. I will be right back. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm back. Noodles in the chat. I love it. Yeah, so there's like a big heavy swinging door that separates our kitchen from like the hallway. And because it's cold outside, we keep that door shut during the winter to like keep the rest of the house nice and warm, which means the kitchen is freezing, but it's a fine trade-off. It's just one room. But Noodle the dog is scared of the big heavy door. Like she could push it open. She's strong enough to do it, but she won't. And sometimes she gets trapped in the kitchen, and sometimes it's also her dinner time, so I had to feed her. So thank you for your patience and for bearing with. Zephyr, elves can't defy gravity. I mean, witches can. Did anyone else watch Wicked? Anyway, let's get back into it. Pippin knows he's a pawn on the wrong chessboard. I'm trying to save all the shit that I have to say about Pippin for the video I'm currently working on that's about Pippin. So, God, okay. My love for my boy is jumping out. So they talked until the sun reached its height, and suddenly the noon bells were rung, and there was a stir in the citadel, for all save the watchmen were going to their meal. Will you come with me? Said Beregond. You may join my mess for this day. I do not know to what company you will be assigned, or the Lord may hold you at his own command, but you would be welcome, and it will be well to meet as many men as you may while there is yet time. Come meet my friends. It's cute. I shall be glad to come, said Pippin. I am lonely, to tell you the truth. I left my best friend behind in Rohan, and I've had no one to talk to or jest with. Perhaps I could really join your company? Are you the captain? If so, you could take me on or speak for me? Nay, nay, Baragon laughed. I am no captain. Neither office nor rank nor lordship have I, being but a plain man of arms of the third company of the citadel. Yet, Master Peregrine, to be only a man of arms of the guard of the Tower of Gondor is held worthy in the city, and such men have honor in the land. Then it is far beyond me, said Pippin. Take me back to our room, and if Gandalf is not there, I will go where you like, as your guest. S.H. Elvsfoba? Jail. Straight to jail. You're in trouble. You keep getting in trouble in my class. We're going to have to go talk to the superintendent. Elvsfoba? Oh, stupid. I love it. Okay. Gandalf was not in the lodging and had sent no message, so Pippin went with Beregond and was made known to the men of the third company, and it seemed that Beregond got as much honor from it as his guest, for Pippin was very welcome, 'cause he turns the fucking party. There had already been much talk in the citadel about Mithrandir's companion and his long closeting with the Lord, and rumor declared that a prince of the halflings had come out of the north to offer allegiance to Gondor and 5,000 swords. And some said that when the riders came from Rohan, each would bring behind him a halfling warrior, small maybe, but doughty. Though Pippin had regretfully to destroy this hopeful tale, he could not be rid of his new rank, only fitting, men thought, to one befriended by Boromir and honored by the Lord Denethor, and they thanked him for coming among them, and hung on his words and stories of the outlands, and gave him as much food and ale as he could wish. Indeed, his only trouble was to be wary, according to the counsel of Gandalf, and not to let his tongue wag freely after the manner of a hobbit among friends. Like, not only is he comfortable enough to let his tongue wag freely, but he's figuring it out, fam. He's learning. We've come a long way from the Prancing Pony, where Pippin almost said Baggins, and Frodo was apparently forced to get up on a table and give a stirring rendition of The Cow Jumped Over the Moon. All right? He has picked up on a few things. At length, Beregond rose. Farewell for this time, he said. I have duty now till sundown, as have all the others here, I think. But if you are lonely, as you say, maybe you'd like a merry guide about the city? My son would go with you gladly. A good lad, I may say, if that pleases you. Pardon me, sorry. If that pleases you, go down to the lowest circle and ask for the old guest house in the Rath Kellerdane. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Rath Kellerdane in the Lampright Street. You will find him there with other lads that are remaining in the city. There may be things worth seeing down at the great gate ere the closing. He went out, and soon after all the others followed. The day was still fine, though it was growing hazy, and it was hot for March, even so far southwards. Pippin felt sleepy, but the lodging seemed cheerless, and he decided to go down and explore the city. He took a few morsels that he'd saved to Shadowfax, and they were graciously accepted, though the horse seemed to have no lack. Then he walked on down many winding ways. People stared much as he passed. To his face, men were gravely courteous, saluting him after the manner of Gondor with bowed head and hand upon the breast. But behind him, he heard many calls, as those out of doors cried to others within to come and see the prince of the halflings, the companion of Mithrandir. Many used some other tongue than the common speech, but it was not long before he learned at least what was meant by Ernil e Perayanath, and knew that his title had gone down before him into the city. He came at last, by arched streets and many fair alleys and pavements, to the lowest and widest circle, and there he was directed to the Lampright Street, a broad way running towards the great gate. In it he found the old guest house, a large building of grey weathered stone with two wings running back from the street, and between them a narrow green sward, behind which the many-windowed house fronted along its whole width by a pillared porch and a flight of steps down onto the grass. Boys were playing among the pillars, the only children that Pippin had seen in Minas Tirith, and he stopped to look at them. Presently, one of them caught sight of him, and with a shout he sprang across the grass and came into the street, followed by several others. There he stood in front of Pippin, looking him up and down. "Greetings," said the lad. "Where do you come from? You are a stranger in the city." "I was," said Pippin, "but they say I've become a man of Gondor." "Oh, come," said the lad, "then we're all men here. But how old are you, and what is your name? I am 10 years already, and shall soon be 5 feet. I'm taller than you. But then my father is a guard, one of the tallest. What is your father?" "Which question shall I answer first?" said Pippin. "My father farms the lands round Whitwell near Tuckborough in the Shire. I'm nearly 29, so I pass you there, though I'm but 4 feet, and not likely to grow any more save sideways." "29," said the lad, and whistled. "Why, you are quite as old as my uncle Eorlus. Eorlus? Still," he added hopefully, "I wager I could stand you on your head or lay you on your back." "Maybe you could if I let you," said Pippin with a laugh, "and maybe I could do the same to you. We know some wrestling tricks in my little country, where, let me tell you, I am considered uncommonly large and strong, and I have never allowed anyone to stand me on my head. So, if it came to a trial and nothing else would serve, I might have to kill you. For when you're older, you will learn that folk are not always what they seem, and though you may have taken me for a soft stranger lad and easy prey, let me warn you, I am not. I am a halfling, hard, bold, and wicked." Pippin pulled such a grim face that the boy stepped back a pace, but at once he returned, with clenched fists and the light of battle in his eye. "No," Pippin laughed, "don't believe what strangers say of themselves, either. I'm not a fighter. But it would be politer, in any case, for the challenger to say who he is." The boy drew himself up proudly. "I am Bergil, son of Beregond of the Guards," he said. "So I thought," said Pippin, "for you look like your father. I know him, and he sent me to find you." "Then why did you not say so at once?" said Bergil, and suddenly a look of dismay came over his face. "Do not tell me that he's changed his mind and will send me away with the maidens." "But no, the last wains have gone." "His message is less bad than that, if not good," said Pippin. "He says that if you would prefer it to standing me on my head, you might show me round the city for a while and cheer my loneliness. I can tell you some tales of far countries in return." Bergil clapped his hands and laughed with relief. "All is well," he said. "Come then. We were soon going to the gate to look on. We'll go now." "What's happening there?" "The captains of the Outlands are expected up the south road ere sundown. Come with us, and you will see." "Oh, she's turned the wains against you, I?" "Aye, she's turned the wains against us." Literally the wains, and also they're watching the wains. Bergil proved a good comrade, the best company Pippin had had since he parted from Merry, and soon they were laughing and talking gaily as they went about the streets, heedless of the many glances that men gave them. It's like being stoned with your buddy in the city, I imagine. Before long, they found themselves in a throng going towards the great gate. There Pippin went up in the esteem of Bergil, for when he spoke his name and the password, the guard saluted him and let him pass through. And what was more, he allowed him to take his companion with him. I knew it. I knew it was you, Simon, who called into the fucking podcast. I knew it. Thank you, because that really made me pee in my pants a little bit. It made me laugh really hard. The Dark Lord has turned the wains against us. Oh, he's turned the wains against you, I? That is good, said Bergil. We boys are no longer allowed to pass the gate without an elder. Now we shall see better. Beyond the gate there was a crowd of men along the verge of the road and of the great paved space into which all the ways into Minas Tirith ran. All eyes were turned southwards, and soon a murmur rose. There's dust away there. They're coming. Pippin and Bergil edged their way forward to the front of the crowd and waited. Horns sounded at some distance, and the noise of cheering rolled towards them like a gathering wind. Then there was a loud trumpet blast, and all about them people were shouting. "Forlong! Forlong!" Pippin heard men calling. "What did they say?" he asked. "Forlong has come," Bergil answered. "Old Forlong the Fat, the Lord of Lossarnoch. That is where my grandsire lives. Hurrah, here he is, good old Forlong." Leading the line there came walking a big thick-limbed horse, and on it sat a man of wide shoulders and huge girth, but old and grey-bearded, yet mail-clad and black-helmed and bearing a long heavy spear. Behind him marched proudly a dusty line of men, well-armed and bearing great battle-axes. Grim-faced they were, and shorter and somewhat swarthier than any men that Pippin had yet seen in Gondor. "Forlong," men shouted, "true heart, true friend, Forlong." But when the men of Lossarnoch had passed, they muttered, "So few! 200s, what are they? We hope for 10 times that number. That will be the new tidings of the Black Fleet. They are sparing only a tithe of their strength. Still, every little is a gain." And so the companies came and were hailed and cheered and passed through the gate, men of the outlands marching to defend the city of Gondor in a dark hour, but always too few, always less than hope looked for or need asked. The men of Ringlow Vale behind the son of their lord, Derverin the men of Ringlow Vale behind the son of their lord, Dervorin striding on foot, 300s. From the uplands of Morthond, the great Blackroot Vale, Tall Duin here with his sons Duilin and Derufin, and 500 bowmen. From the Enfalas, the Langstrand far away, a long line of men of many sorts, hunters and herdsmen and men of little villages, scantily equipped save for the household of Galazgil their lord. From Lamedon, a few grim hillmen without a captain, fisher folk of the Ether, some 100 or more spared from the ships. Hirluin, the fair of green hills from Pinath Gelen, was 300s of gallant green-clad men, and last and proudest Imrahil, prince of Dol Amroth, kinsman of the Lord, with gilded banners bearing his token of the ship and the silver swan, and a company of knights in full harness riding grey horses, and behind them 700s of men at arms, tall as lords, grey-eyed, dark-haired, singing as they came. Woo! Yeah, you can tell that Fendigil, the king's scribe, had his fucking hands all over this part of the Red Book. And that was all, less than 3,000s full told. No more would come. Their cries and the tramp of their feet passed into the city and died away. The onlookers stood silent for a while. Dust hung in the air, for the wind had died and the evening was heavy. Already the closing hour was drawing nigh, and the red sun had gone behind Mindalluin. Shadow came down on the city. Pippin looked up, and it seemed to him that the sky had grown ashen gray, as if a vast dust and smoke hung above them, and light came dully through it. But in the west the dying sun had set all the fume on fire, and now Mindalluin stood black against a burning smolder flecked with embers. "So ends a fair day in wrath," he said, forgetful of the lad at his side. "So it will if I have not returned before the sundown bells," said Bergil. "Come, there goes the trumpet for the closing of the gate." Hand in hand, they're so cute, they went back into the city, the last to pass the gate before it was shut, and as they reached the lamplight street, all the bells in the tower tolled solemnly. Lights sprang in many windows, and from the houses and wards of the men-at-arms along the walls there came the sound of song. "Farewell for this time," said Bergil. "Take my greetings to my father, and thank him for the company that he sent. Come again soon, I beg. Almost I wish now that there was no war, for we might have had some merry times. We might have journeyed to Lossernach, to my grandsire's house. It is good to be there in spring. The woods and fields are full of flowers. But maybe we will go thither together yet. They will never overcome our Lord, and my father is very valiant. Farewell, and return. They parted, and Pippin hurried back towards the citadel. It seemed a long way, and he grew hot and very hungry, and night closed down swift and dark. Not a star pricked the sky. He was late for the day meal in the mess, and Baragon greeted him gladly and sat him at his side to hear news of his son. After the meal, Pippin stayed a while, and then took his leave, for a strange gloom was on him, and now he desired very much to see Gandalf again. Tell me, where is Gandalf? For I much desire to speak with him. Can you find your way? Said Baragon at the door of the small hall on the north side of the citadel where they had sat. It is a black night, and all the blacker since orders came that lights are to be dimmed within the city, and none are to shine out from the walls. And I can give you news of another order. You will be summoned to the Lord Denethor early tomorrow. I fear you will not be for the third company. Still, we may hope to meet again. Farewell, and sleep in peace. The lodging was dark, save for a little lantern set on the table. Gandalf was not there. Gloom settled still more heavily on Pippin. He climbed on the bench and tried to peer out of a window, but it was like looking into a pool of ink. He got down and closed the shutter and went to bed. For a while he lay and listened for sounds of Gandalf's return, and then he fell into an uneasy sleep. In the night he was wakened by a light, and he saw that Gandalf had come and was pacing to and fro in the room beyond the curtain of the alcove. There were candles on the table and rolls of parchment. He heard the wizard sigh and mutter, "When will Faramir return?" "Hello," said Pippin, poking his head round the curtain. "I thought you'd forgotten all about me. I'm glad to see you back. It's been a long day." "But the night will be too short," said Gandalf. "I've come back here, for I must have a little peace alone. You should sleep in a bed while you still may. At the sunrise I shall take you to the Lord Denethor again. No, when the summon comes, not at sunrise. The darkness has begun. There will be no dawn." Whew! And with that, we close chapter 1 of book 5, Minas Tirith. Bangers. Sorry to all of the friends of the city of Gondor whose names I mispronounced, but that passage to me always reads like George R. R. Martin read that passage and was like, "Oh, that's how you write fantasy." Of just like a list of like other guys and like where they're from. Cracks me up. SH, because you arrived late, I have marked you as tardy, but I need to read my favorite sentence again. Because it just whips so fucking hard. And it also indicates a thing that I'm glad that I'm not the only person this bothers, that the Pelennor fields are in fact farmland and not just a big, wide, muddy field with nothing in it that stands between Minas Tirith and Mordor. Okay. The townlands were rich, with wide tilth and many orchards, and homesteads there were with oast and garner, fold and byre, and many rills rippling through the green from the highlands down to Anduin. That's the fucking highest style of prose that Tolkien talks about in his letters when he's talking about the kind of high versus low that he presents in Lord of the Rings. Like, the highest style of prose is what we see in the Minas Tirith chapter, both with descriptions like that and in how Denethor talks, for example, and how Baragon talks. There's more of like a formal mode to how they speak. Gandalf slips into it as well. Let me see if I can find this one example. Doobie-doobie-doo. Yeah, like Denethor says shit like verily. And let's see. Yeah, Gandalf says shit like one of the twain. Like, he doesn't usually speak like that, but he code switches a little bit when they're in Minas Tirith to converse with Denethor. Pippin does none of that. And I'm pretty sure it's mentioned in the appendices somewhere. I'll find it. Not right now, but I will find it. That Pippin is regarded as the prince of the halflings, A, because he's friends with Gandalf and appears with him, B, because he's immediately like welcomed by Lord Denethor and sworn to his service, and then C, he doesn't code switch when he talks to people who are a higher rank than he is. He just speaks to everyone equally. So the assumption there is that he must be of a super high rank because he addresses everyone equally. I think that's fucking hilarious. And it's so like linguist nerd of Tolkien to like weave that in. And it's so subtle. We don't necessarily know about it unless you read all the appendices, where I'm pretty sure it's mentioned outright, but I'll find it. I'll have a look for it. And yeah, it's worth pointing out that people in Gondor speak different languages. They sure do. They speak the common speech, and there's another tongue that they use that's unfamiliar. But Pippin listens to it enough to know when he's being spoken about, which cracks me up. And yeah, yes, Mark's aldehyde, correct. Hobbits don't have a formal address. So in French, for example, you have tu, which is like peers, and then you have vous, which is like formal address, like what you would say to like, I would say tu to a friend to say you. I would say vous to like a parent or a teacher or the superintendent or like whoever the fuck that's like of a higher rank than I am, like a more formal way of saying you or hello or whatever. Hobbits don't have that. In Gondor, they do. So just the utter lack of Pippin like differentiating because he doesn't necessarily know that he would or is supposed to. That's part of why people perceive him as being like of a super high rank. Cracks me up. And inverse to modern English, which lost its informal address. Girl, to me, girl, dude are informal address, but we're going to bring it back. We're bringing it back. What's another bit that I wanted to talk about? There's just like a lot in this chapter, especially about like Gondor and how it is, and I find it really lovely. I fucking love Minas Tirith. It's described as being like a ship as well. Maybe that's where my obsession with big boats comes from. Who fucking knew? That's the first time I've noticed that is on this reading out loud to you. Let's see. I like the Pippin takes food to Shadowfax. He's a very thoughtful boy. Oh, I like very much that when Bergil is bragging about his dad, my dad's a guard of the tower. He's one of the tallest. Like, obviously, Bergil fucking idolizes his dad. It's very cute. And then he's like, "What's your father?" And Pippin's like, "My dad's a farmer. He farms the lands around Whitwell near Tuckborough in the Shire." But what he doesn't say is that his dad is the Thane of the Shire. Like, as close as the Shire gets to like an acting king, I guess, is the Thane, like a clan leader. And I think Pippin doesn't say that, A, because he's wicked humble, but B, because his dad's only been the Thane for like 3 or 4 years, I think, when Pippin leaves the Shire. So it's new. He's new money. But I like that he doesn't even bring that into the conversation because he knows it's not relevant. Like he'll let Bergil brag on Baragond all day. Pippin's like, "Can we just like hang out, fucking hold hands and run around and tell jokes and go like look at some stuff and you can tell me some things?" I just think it's really sweet. But yeah, I'm an English literature degree holder. I am no linguist. The linguistics I do know was a study of Macedonian I did for my linguistics course, which was a science credit that I got to take. So I know a lot about Macedonian, but not very much about literally any other language. Tolkien would be intensely disappointed in me personally, I'm sure. But yeah, so that's Minas Tirith. Fucking love that chapter. I'm thinking about doing like a let's read whole video just about it because there's a lot to dig into that I didn't even get to on this. Partly because I'm fucking hungry. I've been reading for like 2 hours. I need to go get some white cakes and some wine, dude. But yeah, I'll be back next week. Let's have a look at the next couple chapters and see how long they are because I might start doing 2 per stream while I have some time. Let's see. I could do 2 next week. I could do it. We'll see what kind of time I have. Or I could do 2 streams and knock out like 4 chapters. I don't know. There's no way we're finishing this book before Christmas as much as I would like to. But yeah, anyway, I'll figure out what the fuck I'm doing next week and I'll let y'all know. So keep an eye on my YouTube, on my Instagram if you follow me there, and on my Discord if you want to join the Discord. It's very fucking chill in there right now. My work is quite busy right now as we like wind down for the end of the year. So that's why I haven't been like hanging out on Discord as much, but I want to be. and I'm intending to stream the 3 extended edition flicks on the 20th on Discord. So I'm going to figure out how to do that, and then we're going to do that, and I will let y'all know what time it's starting, if there will be breaks, probably not, and how to join me for that if you would like to. You obviously don't have to come and stay the whole time. I would never subject anyone to the madness that I personally subscribe to, but come and go as you like at your leisure. Come hang out with me. You can see me descend from fresh as a daisy in the morning to a bent and haggard old lady by the time we fucking get to Aragorn's coronation. So that should be fun. All right, I'm going to go eat some dinner. My tummy's literally rumbling, but thank y'all so much for being here with me. I love Frodo and Sam. I love them, but I love Gandalf and Pippin like so much fucking more, and it was so nice to hang out with my boys for a little while today. So thank you. Yeah, pub straight after the stream, dog. Where the fuck are you? Like, should we go? Yeah, it's time to go. All right. I love y'all so much. Thank you again for being here with me, and I will see you next week, as per usual. Goodbye.